I modeled a while back a cottage. It's called the Seth Peterson College. It's a Frank Lloyd Wright building, and inside of it there was a lot of what was called Usonian furniture, super simple furniture made from plywood, inexpensive parts and easy to build. And I'm going to do a quick video on not one that I've built, but if I were to build it, this is how I would do it: a table and chairs. It also shows that it could be done. Here's a super quick model of that cottage. I just traced it off of some plans I found online and built it complete with siding, rock work, landscape, but most intriguing, I think, all the furniture. And on the inside of it there was this Frank Lloyd Wright Usonian type furniture. It's a Usonian house. The furniture is very simple, made from simple products, and in this case plywood. Everything in the house was made of plywood, and this table and chairs kind of intrigued me, and I just made a quick video on if I were to build a set of chairs and a table like this is how I'd go about it. Frank Lloyd Wright was sort of known for designing things like this that could be built from plywood and could be built simply with minimal plywood. So first I'll take a look at the table. It's again a plywood top. It does have, I think, looks like a 1x3 band around it of probably dimensional lumber, but the rest of it is definitely plywood. The way I would do it would be to have some reinforcement across the top so that the legs and inner webs could be screwed to something, and you would not have to have screws showing from the top surface of the table. So you could screw that webbing down into the leg parts, and then you could screw up from that webbing into the bottom of the tabletop. And you can see how these parts come apart and how you could fasten them together. It would take some finesse. It would take some cutting of mitered cuts, but you could calculate this all, I think, very simply. And then the table would go together similar to the way I've shown it here. I've also shown that these parts, all of these parts to build this table, would fit on a single sheet of plywood. So this entire table could be built out of one sheet of 4x8 plywood. And if you wanted to decorate the edge of it like this is done, then you'd need perhaps some 1x3 for the edge banding. The chairs, similarly, you could build a pair of chairs from one sheet of plywood. Again, simple furniture out of simple materials, very functional and very affordable. The chairs are built something like this, and I'll drag one out here, remove the cushion, and show you how, again, if I were to build one, this is probably the way I would go about it. There is a cushion that you would have to either buy or make, or size the chair to a cushion that is readily available. The seat and the back are both flat pieces of plywood. You'd cut those to size and attach them to the legs. The legs are joined by a spacer across the back, and that spacer across the back, because these legs are splayed, in the case of this drawing, I splayed those legs 15 degrees, both left and right. So you would cut on that spacer in the back 15-degree miters in those two cuts. Then you'd cut the shapes out of these legs, and again you would you simply splay those at 15 degrees each, and then screw the back to hold them together, and screw the seat to hold them together, and screw the separation piece to hold them together, and you'd have the framework of the chair. Again, you'd have to cut miters 15-degree miters in even those back uprights so that the back would sit flush when you screwed it to the cutouts for the legs. Here I'll show that these parts would all fit on a 4x8 sheet of plywood. Here's the table, and here are the parts laid out as if you were going to cut them from a 4x8. You can see the tabletop. You can see these reinforcement pieces are there on the 4x8. You can also see the legs are there on the 4x8. The trusses or center webs to hold the legs upright are also there on the 4x8. All these parts would come off of a simple and single 4x8 sheet of plywood. I'm just sort of showing what those various parts look like. If you edge banded the table, again, you'd probably want to do that in dimensional lumber, a 1x3. Now here, on the other hand, is the chair, and you can see you can get a pair of chairs out of a sheet of plywood. You can see the leg cutouts there, the seats, the backs, and the spreader bar, the spacer bar. All of these simply plywood parts screwed together. Frank Lloyd Wright did this kind of on purpose. It was able to be done with unskilled labor and inexpensive parts. Of course, plywood is a lot more expensive than it used to be, but when you think about the simplicity of this furniture and the fairly good looks of it, and of course the utilitarian nature of it, it really went very well with the Seth Peterson cottage. So that's a pair of chairs out of a piece of plywood. Here I'm just modeling it in SketchUp just to get a better idea what it would look like with people scale. There it is next to the coffee table. I did a video on that maybe a week or so ago, and I just wanted to see how this would look kind of in scale with a person seated at it. So I scaled it, or I modeled it both in SketchUp and then in a rendering program just to give you an idea of what it might look like in real life. Again, this is if I were to build it, how I do it. I didn't actually build one in real life. Thanks for watching.